Majority of the Japanese anime and manga community is now siding with Piracy, and when something like this happens, you know you screwed up big time, because to put this in perspective, the Japanese community is very anti-piracy, and 9 times out of 10, they will always side with the company no matter what they do. And so when you have that very rare chance, that 1 out of 10 chance that the Japanese community sides with Piracy, that is the time you should pay attention. That is the time you should look at why they're even siding with Piracy and what actually happened. And what happened is honestly pretty damning, and the Japanese community is finally finding out what all of us have been talking about for a very long time. So posts like this is currently spreading like wildfire in the Japanese community. There's many posts like this, but this is just one I decided to pick to show you guys. And if you go to view translation, this is what they have to say. A new fact has come to light. The reason illegal viewing is so rampant overseas is because of the shitty censorship by streaming companies. Their official stuff is just full of dumbed down garbage, so you end up having to turn to illegal streams. Guess they weren't stealing just because they wanted to, huh? Eye-opening stuff. So this post and many others like it are now gaining the attention of Japanese politicians that are very anti-censorship, and also a lot of big Japanese accounts. And they're now commenting on the situation and finding out just how bad censorship has been in the West for the last few years, finding out just how much damage Crunchyroll, for example, has been doing, how they have been, for instance, changing subtitles, how they have been, you know, actually using anime as a vessel to force in their own politics or narrative, basically hatred towards men or whatever they want to do. And you see a lot of Japanese accounts now finding out just how bad Crunchyroll has been, Sony has been, and just in general translations to anime and manga. And so this is honestly... this is great news just to see that the Japanese community and politicians are becoming increasingly aware of just how much tampering has been done with their creative works. But it doesn't just stop there. And you're probably wondering why it took so long for them to even start talking about the situation, especially with how dire it's been. Well, the reason for that is because the algorithm on Twitter recently shifted about 2 days ago, and it pretty much had Japanese accounts being pushed up against American accounts, and basically, for the very first time, these communities that more or less were kind of separated a little bit with their own algorithm were kind of meshed together to where they were starting to interact with each other. It was a very wholesome time on social media, I want to be honest, very peaceful 24 hours. But thanks to this interaction, it caused a lot of Japanese accounts to find out what really is going on in the West when it comes to anime and manga, and how people view it, and how people censor it or use it for political reasons. And so in this case, this has opened up the floodgates to now where the Japanese community is finding out just how bad it is, and why there's just so much rampancy of piracy within the West. So I'm going to say, when you have the Japanese community now understanding why piracy is happening, it's over. It's straight up over. Because, like I said already at the beginning of this video, this is a community that will always side with the company. And when they do not side with you, and they understand now why there's so much piracy, you've lost. Honestly, with how much L's that Crunchyroll has been taking in the last few weeks, honestly, I mean, for a very long time, but especially in the last few weeks with these class action lawsuits, I would not be surprised if there is going to be someone in a position of power within Japan that is going to either completely cause them to change course or cut them off entirely. I have heard from a few insiders in the last few months that have told me that Crunchyroll is actually not very well liked in Japan. A lot of people in the production committee and people at the top and stuff in animation studios do not like Crunchyroll. They actually really hate them. And it's one of the big reasons too why Netflix has been getting a lot of opportunities, is because Crunchyroll is not liked. And it's starting to really show a lot, actually. You can really just see where Japan does not like Crunchyroll, and honestly, good. However, Netflix is an entirely other can of worms on how they handle anime releases and stuff. I mean, let's look at JoJo. But, I mean, still, Crunchyroll has kind of dug their hole for a very long time. They've continuously gotten worse. And it's clear that Japan is now starting to wake up and understand just how bad it has been for censorship for anime and manga, and now they're starting to speak up about it. When you have politicians speaking up about it and stuff, you know, we're finally getting the ball moving. So, yeah, this is honestly some incredible news. We're actually seeing some progress to where it's not just the West talking about it, but you actually see Japan actively talking about the situation and trying to, you know, kind of stop it where it's at. Because we have seen that this censorship has spread its tendrils within Japan to where, like, a lot of anime now is censored on the cutting room floor. To where when it's in its inception and getting created, it is being censored upon creation thanks to these localizers and Western companies. And so the fact that the Japanese community and politicians are finding out about this, hopefully they'll put a stop to it and say, nah, stop tampering with our works to force agenda or politics in what we have. We don't like that. I hope that there is a hardline stance and that these politicians within Japan continue to push against that. But I'll leave it at that. I briefly want to talk about this because this was very good news, honestly, and I felt like you guys needed to hear it. But be safe, stay healthy, Chibi out.